Good morning. Welcome to another exciting Boca Raton Chamber educational webinar. We're very excited to have you with us this morning and excited to have Bradley Hurlburt joining us today. He's the president and CEO of the Community Foundation of Palm Beach and Martin Counties. Before we get to the introduction, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Sophia, who's just going to give a quick update for housekeeping purposes.
Well, hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Boca Chamber virtual experience. We will be recording this entire presentation, so it'll be available on our YouTube playlist later this evening. We will also be sending a PDF of all of the slides of the PowerPoint to everyone and a follow-up email for everyone to reference later. We will also be taking questions throughout the presentation and also opening up at the end. But if you would like to ask a question, there is a Q&A icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you click that, you can type in your question either anonymously or just leave it public. Casey, who will be speaking with Bradley today, will be monitoring the questions and either typing in the answers or vocalizing them during the presentation. That is all I have, so I'll hand it back to Jonathan.
Great, thank you, Sophia. And before we begin, I'm excited to announce that the Chamber yesterday launched its Did You Know initiative. And this initiative is aimed to help our nonprofits support and promote them to the community. You should have received an email yesterday from Sarah Pearson asking for you to share your nonprofit's mission statement, biggest need, and contact information with us. So if you did not receive that, please email spearson@bocachamber.com. So with that, I'm excited to introduce our speaker now. Bradley Hurlburt joined the Community Foundation as its president and CEO in September 2013. He came to the foundation after 30+ years in fundraising at colleges and universities and public television. While at the foundation, he has worked on positioning the foundation as a community collaborator and leader across its service area. He is responsible for providing the vision and leadership for shaping the Community Foundation's role as a civic leader, grant maker, and philanthropic partner, while overseeing the day-to-day operations. He is currently the chair of the Florida leadership team, chair of the leadership team of the Community Foundation of Florida and part of the Florida Philanthropic Network. And with that, I turn it over to you. Thank you for coming.
All right, Jonathan, thank you so much and welcome everybody. And so pleased to be with you today. I want to introduce Casey, my colleague, and she's the star of the show. So we're looking forward to hearing from you, Casey. And with that, I think we'll just go through the slides. Yeah. Actually, I'll just say another thing too. One of the things that I've been thinking about and Casey and I were thinking about what we would share with you is we're looking to be a resource for you, and the nonprofit community, I think, has been hit particularly hard by this COVID-19 experience. And so we're going to share with you some of the things we're doing and hopefully give you a little bit of inside information that might help you as far as getting support during this time of, let's call it crisis, pandemic, whatever we want to call it. So with that, let's go to the first slide.
All right. So I just wanted to address, I am the donor relations coordinator at the Community Foundation. I joined about 2 years ago. The mission of the Community Foundation is just as it says on the screen, but really to serve as this leading catalyst. We aim to really convene and collaborate with local leaders, organizations just like you, who really know our community the best. So that's how we get our work done as well as possible. So thank you for being a part of that.
Just to give you a little background, so community foundations around the country, the first one was founded in 1914. It was in Cleveland, Ohio. And I think it's helpful to know what the impetus of that first community foundation was, because it holds through today. John D. Rockefeller had set up his own private foundation at that time, and the attorney who worked on that private foundation setup thought, isn't there a way for the average person to be part of something like this? And that's really how community foundations came together. We're a collection of 400 to 500 different individuals and organizations that make up our asset base, which is, as of the end of December, was a little over $200 million. And we expect, we're probably a little bit below that with the market the way it is now, but we expect to get back there soon, we hope. We have 18 full-time staff members, and we want to, as we say, maximize assets for Palm Beach and Martin counties. That's our service area. And just an idea of how we operate. We look to increase impact. We do things through collaboration and partnerships. And as we do that, we increase our relevance, and we really look for more people to know about us and what we do. And through that, we look to increase our assets over time. And the way we're able to serve the community is through the assets growing. But we don't just focus on the assets, we really focus on our service to the community. About, I think it's almost 4 years ago now, we went through a strategic plan overview, and this is just to give you an idea. We have 3 areas that we really have been focusing on. One is community impact. That's how we serve the community. And then donor-centric services. So when I mentioned those 400 or 500 fund holders, we look to them as partners. And for example, people have donor advised funds with us that they direct. With this COVID-19, $400,000 or $500,000 of the grants that have gone back into our community have actually come from our fund holders who have assets with us. So they're partners as far as we're concerned in the work we do in the community. And then again, asset growth, that's how we serve everybody. And it's the hope that through the things we do that serve the community, our assets will grow. And just want to mention that the foundation of that too, on that last slide, is just equity and inclusion, building our training and development. And we've really increased our technology platform. And boy, this COVID-19 crisis has really shown, we're so glad we made some of those investments, because as probably many of you are, we are working remotely now and thinking maybe we'll get back to the office in June, but we really don't know. So technology has been a big part of our strategic plan moving forward. So just the strategic plan we just talked about, I think I've mentioned most of these, but we really want to concentrate on specific community goals, and we look for collaboration. And we've been really working on our ability to be that entity in the community that people can come to, and we can bring many people together. I think next slide.
So
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to reflect. About 2 years ago, we definitely went through some restructuring and some rethinking on our actions and our services to the community as a community foundation. So kind of looking at this toolbox here, prior to 2017, we were what most people think of as a community foundation. We were a strong funder in a geographical region. Those strategic shifts that we've taken have allowed us to kind of convert over to the second half of the screen, where we are diving into much more ways to engage with the community members, including individuals, organizations, government leaders, and we're going to talk about a little bit of that now. So kind of talking those first grant making areas, the thing that we stuck to the whole time we've existed. About 2 years ago, we did a lot of research, a lot of data analysis, a lot of surveying to determine where our dollars can deliver the most impact in our community right now and could use funding support. So we went ahead and we started moving forward with these 3 grant making focus areas, and that fits in our traditional scheme of what we do on the grant making side. So community revitalization is a very broad term, but it is exactly that. You know, we're focusing on grant making that focuses on affordable housing. It can focus on greening play spaces at pre-K schools. It can focus on legislation and ideas and conversations that need to happen. So it's a broad scheme, but it's very valuable to our community, and that has been spoken about for many, many years here. So we're glad to be a part of those discussions. Educational attainment is our second area. And while this is valuable at all times, we're trying to think outside the lens of pre-K through 12th grade. So we're thinking about adult education, first generation students attending college, other development programs, outside of that traditional thought space. And positive youth development is that third area. And it's just that. We're trying to think about how to enhance our youth strengths, give them the best opportunities in our community to really thrive and succeed and be the next great generation in Palm Beach and Martin counties. And then just to dive off of the other portion of our toolbox, we're talking about things like convening. So on the table, some of you are familiar with that. I saw some of you that joined the call have been a big part of On the Table in the past. We joined the Knight Foundation with this initiative 2 years ago, and it's really been a great opportunity to have one day in our community that we gather community members and we listen. It's a day all about hearing what our community's feeling, what they see, what they care about, what's valuable to them, and just talk over food, which is the best way to talk, and be able to then take that information and report it back in actual data to the public to make decisions with, to have more conversations about, and to think strategically about what our community specifically wants and needs. So based off of that, this is some of the data we just recently received from our most recent On the Table last year. And I think it's relevant to mention for South Palm Beach County, affordable health care is one of the top priorities that citizens were worried about. So I think that it all kind of, it always comes back and relates to each other in the long run. So having this data, you guys can actually access this at onthetablefl.com. It's all still active and available to you to look at, to be able to see what people have reflected on for the past 2 years. And we'd love for you to be able to use that as a resource.
So just to jump off on something Casey spoke about a minute ago, the 3 focus areas, as I noticed there were 40 or 50 nonprofits on this call. And many of you, as you think about whether you would apply for a grant with a community foundation, I'm hoping that as you saw those areas of interest, you might have been thinking that, oh, there's some things we do with positive youth development that might warrant an application to the community foundation for a grant next year, or perhaps educational attainment, or even under community revitalization. So we're hoping that we're giving you some information that might be useful as you move forward in this post-COVID-19 environment as well. And on the issue of community leadership, the census is just so important to, and especially probably the nonprofit community as well. I believe the statistic I heard is we look to leave something like $16 billion on the table over the next 10 years if we undercount our population. So we have locally in Palm Beach County and also statewide been involved with the Census 2020. And the thing that we're focusing on as a community foundation are those hard to count communities. Many times they might be they might be immigrants, they might be lower income people. So that's a role that we think we can play that really benefits our whole community.
Definitely. And I just wanted to add in, I noticed I haven't seen any questions yet. So please don't be shy. Let us know if you have any questions. And the slides will be available afterwards as well. And all the active links will be available to you afterwards as well. And so will we. So any questions, you're more than welcome to direct us afterwards. But I'm keeping an eye out now if anyone would like to ask anything.
So this is the money that has come in to help with COVID-19. We're only supporting nonprofit organizations with this money. So as far as available for impact, it's almost $3.3 million. And I would just like to mention that across the country, community foundations have set up funds. And the last I heard, I think it was as of April 30th, $718 million across this country has been mobilized for COVID-19 response, and $283 million has been granted out. And just to give you an idea of the source of this, so I mentioned the donor advised funds. Those are people who have funds with us that went back into our community. The Knight Foundation is a partner with us. They put $800,000 in, Meredith Trim and Jim Rovo 200, and a Pew Foundation. So 1.5 million of that almost 3 came from restricted sources that partnered with us. So we have $1.7 million that we actually are allocating directly where we make the decision. So far we've given out 817 and we've got 926 to go. And I think at this point, I just might mention that we'll talk about it a little bit later, but if you have put in an application for COVID support, we're going to give you some tips, and you may want to reconsider how that application looks. But we want to give you some information that might be helpful. And so total, whoops, I just saw, so the total I think was 1.6, just about right. Go ahead.
So the COVID-19 relief and recovery application is a little bit unique because it is a shared application with the funders that you see on your screen. So it's really a partnership between funders within Palm Beach and Martin counties to be able to address our nonprofit population by working together. Now, this group has gotten together in the past for hurricane relief, and now they're responding to the pandemic that we're facing. So the group actually works out of a shared platform, so they're not duplicating grants, and that they're working together to ensure that grants are getting out the door efficiently, appropriately, and that we're getting as much support out the door as possible.
Just to give you an idea of the total requests, we're never going to meet the total requests, I imagine, but 26 million total requests as of a couple of days ago. And I think that slide before it's actually, we haven't shown what the total, that's probably coming up, but I think it's close to 4 million from everybody in the collaborative. And go ahead, Casey.
I was just going to say, so this is our current COVID-19 grant making priorities as a community foundation. So we're focusing on access to health services, food, and housing assistance at the time being. As we all know, with COVID-19, things are changing all the time. So we are not denying applications right now for grant making opportunities. We are holding on to every application because we know things are changing constantly. And we want to be able to keep all those open resources available to support our community as things change. If you did submit an application at the beginning of when we opened it, which is about 2 months ago, and you've had some changes in your operations, if you've had changes in your funding structure, I highly recommend you reach out to me and I'll get you in touch with our staff person who can help update that application with you.
And I might just mention here that some of the grant applications were for lost revenue, such as someone might have a gala that they couldn't have because of the COVID-19, or many people have events, but we have not done any funding to replace lost revenue. So just something to be aware of. That could happen in the future, but just to know right now, this is what we're looking at.
Brad, I got our first question.
Yay!
I'm going to read it out to you. There is an organization here that's actually a 501c6. They have 2 initiatives on workforce development. Is there any distinctions regarding funding between a C6 and a C3? And if so, would we recommend a structure adjustment for them?
So we only give to 501c3s. So that's part of the way we are operated. At 501c6 would be like a chamber or a membership organization. Many chambers have actually a 501c3 part of their chamber. I believe the Boca Chamber does, and I know some of the other chambers locally do. So another option for you with your project might be to have a partner that's a 501c3 so that you could make that happen.
And just to add on to that, with donor advised funds that are held at a community foundation, they also follow the guidelines of granting to 501c3s. So we're always happy to talk to you a little bit further if you have a grant request coming through, and we can work with you on the side about discussions on 501c3s that match, or like Brad suggested, with different adjustments and alterations. I have another question. Does access to health services include mental health services? Great question.
It's a really good question. In fact, we have been talking about that as kind of expanding the health services part of what we're doing to behavioral health issues. And so I would expect in the next few weeks that we will be pivoting a little bit, which would be a little bit further. Mostly, initially, it's been testing and those kinds of things, but I could see us heading in that direction in the next couple of weeks for sure.
Yeah. And I wanted to address another question that just came in. Do you have funding for arts organizations? Yes, there are definitely funding opportunities for arts organizations related to COVID-19. As Brad was saying, right now we're focusing on that access to health services, food, and housing. But if you're considering applying, I recommend you do so. just because many organizations are experiencing lost revenue right now and are applying because of that. So it's still valuable to apply and to reach out to us if you have further questions. And oh yeah, somebody also asked, they wanted to kind of reinforce their interest in the mental health trauma therapy aspect as well. And they're really grateful we answered that question. Great. So thank you, Brad. And one other question, I'm gonna take this before we move on to the next slide. Thank you for addressing this, Peggy. I am the chapter director of a small 501c3 nonprofit called Special Spaces. We create dream bedroom makeovers for children with cancer, transforming the children's existing bedroom into a unique space created through the children's imagination. Studies show that a peaceful space helps with the healing process. Does Special Spaces fall under your main categories?
Go ahead, Casey.
Okay, so I was going to address first. With, I think, COVID-19, it probably doesn't fit under the current grant-making priorities. I think that the work that you do might fit under our traditional grant-making structure to go under review, but I'll let Brad kind of give a final thought on that, and then we can always email and call each other afterwards.
Right, I think under the positive youth development, I think that would definitely be a great category to put under that area. But probably in the next grant cycle, which would begin in the fall.
Yeah. Okay.
So we just wanted to share, we mentioned where the money has gone so far, and this will just show that quite a bit went to health. Initially, I would say food has been moving up. Food has been a huge issue, and then keeping people in their homes has been another issue initially. So that total that we actually granted was nearly $1 million so far.
Yeah, so we've talked about the application a couple of times, so we'll be sharing this with you in the slides again in the future. But this is just a quick screenshot of the top of the application. It's not very lengthy. It's really trying to be as efficient as possible with your time. We know that you've got a lot going on right now, and that's a big reason why we collaborate with these other funders. So you're not applying in multiple places and having to recreate work when you've got so much more on your plate. So please, if you have not applied yet, consider doing so. And if you've had an application with us already, and it's been some time and you've had some changes, reach out to us and we can look at updating your application accordingly.
Maybe this time I just mentioned in our normal grant cycle that cover those three areas that Casey mentioned, we are actually doing a bit of a pivot, and we're going to the board next week for approval, and we are making all of our grants unrestricted. So if you did put in an application for a particular project based on community revitalization, positive youth development, or educational attainment, it is our, we believe the board is going to make those grants and they will be completely unrestricted, which is pretty much best practices in a situation like this. We actually signed a pledge with the Council on Foundations that we would do everything we could to make it easier on nonprofits, less reporting, and try to get the money in their hands so that they can spend it on whatever they need the most at this point in time.
Perfect. So I wanted to share something that I've been doing in partnership with a couple of other organizations, Association of Fundraising Professionals Palm Beach County chapter and Nonprofits First have been working with the Community Foundation, something that we call Take 60, nonprofit virtual check-ins. We did our first one in April, and it's a check-in call literally for 60 minutes. It's an opportunity for nonprofit organizations to tell each other what's been working, what you're struggling with, ideas you have in mind right now, partnerships that might come out of things. And it's been a really good call. It's an opportunity to recharge, kind of bounce ideas off of each other, and focus on how we can help each other out in this uncertain time. Our next one's gonna be May 21st. I have the link included. I'd love for you guys to join us on this call. Last call that we had, we talked from a wide range of doing budget simulations for the next calendar year and the next fiscal year, even into looking at force majeure clauses for event planning, thinking about how people are restructuring events right now, and even talking about fundraising structure. So ways that you can be reaching out to high-level donors right now, what people are comfortable with annual support asks right now, So there's a lot of really great conversation that happens on those calls. So I'd love for you guys to be able to join us on this next call or a monthly one in the future. Now, the next two slides I have here are resource links that we've been sharing with our nonprofit community. There are so many out there that you can use as a resource to learn about CARES Act right now, the Paycheck Protection Program, which has been an experience for a lot of us. So I wanted to share these resources and hope that if you are on that path right now seeking alternative funding through government institutions or other ways, that this could be a resource. I wanted to do a little shout out. The Legal Aid Society of Palm Beach County did a presentation with Quantum Foundation early last month, and they had some really excellent resources that they shared, a calculator simulator that you can do, some guiding factors you can follow. Now, keep in mind, you should always reach out to accounting and legal counsel before you move forward with these things. But I just wanted to be able to share some of those resources as well and hope it might be able to help you. Council on Foundations and Alliance for Charitable Reform, they do a great job with giving constant updates on what's happening at the legislation level. So it's kind of good to keep an eye out on, is there going to be a fourth round coming out? What's the discussions on charitable giving incentives right now and how that might change in the future. So it's a great place to keep an eye on things. And this last resource page are just additional resources that I found useful. There are so many organizations doing homework for all of us right now and investigating what our options are, what we can be doing moving forward. So I put Nonprofits First resource link on here. The Spirit of Giving has been doing a lot of social posts lately, and they're a great resource as well. And I've put our page on here as well. We're listing resources. And the last item on this page is I'm a personally big fan of. It's a crowdsourced document on Google that a lot of nonprofit leaders and consultants have pulled documentation together. It's 26 pages of resources. So it ranges from, how to 3D print a face shield to how do you readjust your event, or how do you have an office happy birthday party through Zoom. So there's all kinds of information in there. And Lionel asked a good question. He said, anyway, all the link for the upcoming event can be shared on here. Yes, we'll be sending it out as a PDF afterwards that'll be clickable, and we'll have them put that in the email too, so you can join. And a final thing that I wanted to kind of shout out to the group, there are a lot of nonprofit partners with the Community Foundation on here that are fund holders. And I just wanted to remind you that if you have a fund with the Community Foundation, there might be an opportunity for you to take an available to grant amount out of your fund. So please, if you're not sure what I mean by that, if you're a fund holder, email me and I'm happy to look into your fund and see if you have a balance available to grant out to yourself, and we can work through that process together. So just a reminder that there is that resource there for some of you who are fund holders.
All right, so just one other thing. So Casey didn't mention it, but so far we've given out $60,000 to actual nonprofit fund holders, and there are opportunities for more. And we have many nonprofit fund holders in Boca Raton, if you probably saw your name on the list before. And we're here to help, and we look forward to hearing from you. Our personal email addresses and phone numbers are here on the screen, and we just appreciate you taking the time to hear about the Community Foundation. I hope you learned something, maybe that you didn't know about the Community Foundation, and I hope we can be a resource for you in the future, and maybe we have been in the past, and maybe we gave you something that will help you have a little better shot at maybe getting that relationship going in the future. Casey, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, please see that our information is here on this last slide, and it will be included in the PDF that goes out. Please email me with any questions that you have. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your very busy schedule. We really appreciate what you're doing for our community. It's vital to the members of our community, what you're doing for everyone. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us and engage with us on the Q&A. Thank you for those of you who did. and we look forward to helping you much more in the future.
All right, Jonathan.
Thank you, guys. That was great. You know, I'm just going to take this opportunity to maybe ask a question or two. I didn't have the ability to put it in the chat box there, but you know, a lot of nonprofits members have asked me, you know, is this still the right time to be asking fundraising for money? So I'll just throw that out there. Maybe either one of you or both of you could answer that question.
So you want to go first?
I'll go first. It's definitely vital right now to be seeking fundraising support. I know some people are kind of unsure of how to ask and when to ask. This was one of our discussions in the Take 60 call we had in April. People were uncertain about asking for annual support when there are other needs going on right now. And I always say yes, in that it's a great time to ask for general operating support. I know it's sometimes a hard ask to do that, but this is such a crucial period that general operating support is so needed, and many funders are starting to really get on board with that. There's actually a pledge that Council on Foundations put out that over 700 funders have signed up for, saying we are going to acknowledge that general operating support is one of the best ways to help our organizations right now, and taking on a much more open, trust-based philanthropy perspective.
And as we've been communicating with our fund holders, we've been saying, if you support this organization over the course of the year, give them the money now. If you usually do a project or an issue, give it to them unrestricted. And we've seen our fund holders, I think it's 4 times in March what it was the year before. And I think in April it was 2.5 times. So we are seeing people giving money for unrestricted, and especially in light of this COVID-19. So I say, never apologize for, you're doing great work and you deserve, and you're giving people an opportunity to really help you.
Great, thank you. And Casey, I don't know if you saw, there's a question that just popped in.
I'm typing to them right now.
And then my second, I guess, question or observation I saw was, you had put up a slide showing the asks from Palm Beach versus Martin County, and there was you know, quite a spread there. Is that just based on the number of nonprofits within our county?
Yeah, so Martin County is about 10% of the population, and I think it reflects in all ways, in the asks and also in the number of nonprofits. So it's a much smaller community.
Okay, well, I want to thank both of you. There was a lot of great information and a lot of great questions, and I'm glad that we had this opportunity to provide you guys to help answer some questions for our nonprofit members. I want to encourage everybody on the call that to know that the Chamber is here for you as a nonprofits, and we continue to help support you and work with you through this crisis. And with that, again, Bradley and Casey, thank you so much. Everybody enjoy their day. Please, for our members, please go to your cell phone devices, either Apple or Android, and you can download our app, which will keep you up to date on all the latest webinars and events we have going on. And with that, I encourage you to enjoy your day. And as Sophia mentioned, please just look at it for our YouTube page to see a recording of all of our webinars and videos. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all.